Let me close my Swift file, and let me move things down here a little bit so I can see some more of the stage. Now I'll just pull this up so I can see these three items here on the top of the stage, and let's see how we can set up the program to access those three elements for us. Now, as soon as we want to start working with the elements on the stage, there's going to be one very important distinction that we need to make between each element that we're looking at. Let me click on this green square at the top. Now you can see that this is just a shape. It has normal shape properties of stroke and fill, and it has a width and height down here, some things that we can change. But I'm going to make this into a movie clip so that we can see one thing that's going to be very similar to our variable. Now I'm just going to press F8. That gives me access to movie clips. I'm just going to call this something simple like green square, because that's what it is. And I'm going to leave the registration in the upper left-hand corner. Click OK. Now, one property that our movie clip has that our shape did not have is right down here underneath where it's declared as a movie clip, and that's called an instance name. Next, what I'll do is I'll type a name in this box, and it will be just like our variable. We'll be able to identify it with ActionScript. Now, I'm not going to use a name like Fred or George. I'm going to try to use something that's going to be a little bit more descriptive. And when we start talking about names in the program, there are going to be some rules involved. First of all, we want to make sure our names contain only letters and numbers. About the only exception to that would be an underscore character. So we're not going to see any periods or commas or slashes or dollar signs or anything like that in our naming conventions. We're going to be using simple naming structures. What I like to do when naming my elements on stage is I like to have some reference in the name of what kind of element it is. Now you can choose your own naming conventions as you like, but I'm going to put MC in front of the name on mine in lowercase characters, and that's going to indicate that this is going to be a movie clip. And I'll just call it MC square. Now, uppercase and lowercase characters are going to be very important in here as well. It's not whether you use them or not, but if you call this item MC square with a capital S like I did, you're going to have to always refer to it with a capital S. If you type MC square with a lowercase s, that would be indicating a different name. So our names are case sensitive. Now my MC square object, I'm not going to use it to contain a simple variable like 2, but what I'm going to do is use it to access some of the properties of the movie clip that is our green square on the stage. Let's try this out. Now we're going to be exploring this a lot more in our later lessons, especially in the lesson right after this. For right now, I'm just going to worry about the syntax of the line. How do I type it? I'm going to go down here below trace Fred, and I'm going to add another quick trace statement. This time, I'm going to trace MC square. I'll put a dot after the name, and I'm going to add to it one of the values or properties of our square, and that would be its X location on the screen. I can access that by typing underscore X. I'll close my parentheses, put in a quick semicolon, and I think you can probably see on the screen the underscore X is showing up in blue. Now that means it's being recognized as an identifier in the program, and it's the identifier that holds the value for the X location on the screen of the green square. Let's try this out. I'm going to do a Control-Enter, and you'll notice we got our original 3 traces, but now it's popping up here 143.55. Now if I just look down in the property window, I can see that that is where the X value is located for the green square. So we can use this to identify or to be able to measure virtually anything that's on the screen. The very important distinction is I can only measure it if it has a name. Now really quickly, that's going to divide our screen elements into 2 categories, things with names and things without names. Let me get my Swift file out of the way, and let's take a look at that flower petal there. I've just got some shapes here. I've got some strokes on the edge, so I click through them, and I've just got some fill shapes in the middle. So if I select that whole thing, I don't really have any namespace available, so I won't be able to access the values of it. But if I make it into one of these named elements, I should be able to use it without any trouble. I'll stick to my movie clips for right now. I'll call this one Flower. Simple enough name. I'll leave it as a movie clip, and this time I'm going to set the registration in the center. Now remember, my registration is going to control things like rotation and the center point for that graphic, so that's going to make it easier for me to line this up a little bit later. Now once I have it as a movie clip on the screen, you can see that it has a name field available to it, and I'll go ahead and type a name in for it. I'll call this one MC Flower. And we'll do the same thing with our circle at the end. I'm just going to select our circle. I'll choose F8. I'll register it also in the center as a movie clip, and I'll just call it Circle. And we'll give it a name of MC Circle. Now in our ActionScript, we should be able to access virtually anything that we can set in the parameters field for this one. Like for instance, what if I try another trace? I'll just put another line down below trace MC square. We'll add a quick trace command, and this time I'll type MC circle. And let's try another property. I'm going to go for underscore alpha. Now you remember that's a setting we can set under the color commands here. I'll finish that off by closing up my parentheses and of course adding a semicolon since it's the end of the line. And I'll use Control Enter or Command Enter on the Mac. We'll test that out. And we can see that the alpha value of our circle was set to 100. That's because it's completely opaque. So we see now that we can create variables, but we can also access variables of some sort for all of our named elements on the screen.